All right, welcome back. Now we've been adding some sounds to the enemy attack. It's time to add some more special effects, like trails when the enemy swings the weapon. Let's go back into our enemy's animations and open enemy attack. Now if we take a look at our enemy while it's swinging the big giant stick, it would look really cool if there would be some sort of particle system trail spawning from the weapon while swinging. And we can do exactly that by adding a special type of anim notify. Here on one of the notifies tracks, you can right-click, add notify state, and select trail. Now, notice this type of notify has two handles on it, allowing us to set a starting point and an ending point. So I'm going to have the starting point about here and the ending point about right here. Now, this takes a particle system template. That's this PS template here. Now, Grux has particles, so let's go ahead and take a look at what Grux has in the Paragon Grux folder. So we're going to go to Paragon Grux, Effects, Particles, Abilities, Primary, Effects, and we have a couple of particle systems designated for melee trails. So here's this P melee trails regular. Let's see what happens when we select this here in the montage for the trail notify. So I'm going to type melee here, and I'm going to select P melee trails regular. Now, we've selected the particle system, but we need to select a pair of sockets. See here in the details panel, we have first socket name and second socket name. Let's take a look at the Grux skeleton. Over here in the asset details, here's the skeleton. We can click Browse to Asset. Let's open up the asset. I'm going to type in Weapon and select Weapon L. Now here's the Weapon L bone. Now if we scroll down in the skeleton tree with Weapon L selected, here are a couple of sockets on the skeleton by default. We have Effects Trail L01, and that's at the tip of the weapon, and we have Effects Trail L02, and that's right here at the base of the weapon, just above the handle. These two sockets are here for these particle system trails. It's going to create a trail that's using these two sockets as upper and lower bounds in space. So we need to use FX Trail L01. I'm going to copy that name. And let's go back to our montage. And for the first socket name, I'm going to paste FX Trail L01. Now for the second socket name, I'm going to paste it and change it to Trail L02. Now we also have a width scale mode, which controls the way the width scale is applied. This affects the width of the trail and whether or not it's scaled outwards from the center or scaled from one socket to the other socket. Let's leave it at from center and see how this looks. Now we can see that the melee trail is pretty subtle, but we have a bunch of different melee trails to select from. For example, here's a P melee trails ultimate. And that one, as you can see, is a little bit more dramatic. So really, we can select any of these that we want. I'm going to leave this with P melee trails regular, and I'm going to add a melee trail to attack R fast as well. Now I'm going to add another notifies track, and I'm going to start the trail right here. I'm going to right-click, add notify state and trail. And I'm going to make the trail last to about here. And I'm going to select the same particle system we used for the first trail, which is P melee trails regular. So I'm going to select P melee trails regular. Now for the socket names, we can't use the same sockets that we used for the first trail because these sockets are on the left weapon. But for attack R fast, we're using the right weapon. So we need to go back into Grux skeleton and find the right weapon, that's weapon R. And attached to weapon R, we have effects trail R01 and O2. So we need to use these socket names. So for this trail, for the first socket name, we're going to use effects trail R01, and for the second socket name, we're going to use effects trail R02. Now we have a weapon trail for attack R fast. Now for attack L and attack R, because these are slower attacks, I'd kind of like these to have a bit more dramatic of a weapon trail. So let's add weapon trails to these. I'm going to start it off about here, right click, add notify state and trail, and I'm going to have the trail last to about here. And for this, I'm going to search for melee and select P Melee Trails Ultimate. And for the first socket name, I'm going to copy the first socket name from our first trail. That's effects trail L01. So I'm going to paste that in here and use trail L02 for the second socket name. So let's see how this looks. And that looks quite a bit better. Now let's go to attack R and add a trail here. I'm going to scrub through to about here, right click, add notify state and trail, and now I'm going to scrub through to about there, and now we can select a trail here. So I'm going to type melee and use P Melee Trails Ultimate, and we need to use the socket names for the right weapon. So I'm going to go back to our attack R fast, select this trail, and copy effects trail R01, and then come back and paste it here in attack R, and for the second socket name, use effects trail R02. And now for attack R, we have our weapon trail. Okay, perfect. Now we can play test this. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play and have the enemy come attack. Okay, that seems to look really good. Okay, so that is going to conclude this video. We now have weapon trails for the enemy, and the enemy's attacks are starting to look a lot more dynamic and interesting, and also sound more interesting. So this is great. In the next video, we're going to add particle systems for when we hit the player, namely a blood splatter. So stay tuned. I'll see you in the next video.